Okay, hello Aries. Welcome to Catalyst Energies and welcome to your new moon astrology forecast for the new moon in Pisces, March 2nd, 2022. So, welcome back, everyone. Welcome if you're new to this channel. Thank you for being here. And I know I said last time that this was going to be subscriber only, but I'm just feeling like one more round I want to make offered out there to everyone, just considering how important this new moon is. So, but just so you know, Aries rising, Aries moon, Aries sun. After this new moon forecast, the full moons, and then the rest of these astrology forecasts are going to be on subscriber base only. So you can access my profile on Subscribestar through the description box below. And you can subscribe to this content and support me for $3 a month, and you'll get this. And then the Starseed Fellowship Zoom meetings are going to be on the alternate weeks, the quarter moons, when we usually need to come together and talk to each other. So, okay, Aries, I have a timer going so I can stay on task and talk about this incredible new moon in Pisces. So this is in your 12th house, Aries. This is setting you up to you really to set some intentions around who you want to be, what represents you, and what represents your ability to channel the will of your own higher self and your transcendent goals in this particular lifetime and in this particular personality, right? The moon is how we feel and the quality of our emotions and how we adapt, and the sun is how we express ourselves, right? It is the outward, external expression of our voice, our authenticity, and that comes from, feeling inside. So these things are linked together. And in your 12th house, this is a strong avatar energy for all of us. But for Aries, it really is in the area of endings and the area of the transcendental, in the area of karmic cycles that are closing out. And this is also the realm of dreams and imagination, compassion and forgiveness and unconditional love, because in the 12th house in Pisces, you just surrender to the closing out of the cycle. You return back to the universe or God or source. And so it's the 12th house is tricky because it's a lot of unseen. It's the mystical realm, and it is not. It's very diffused, right? It's very fluid. It's very malleable. It is mutable water, and it represents the ocean of consciousness. And so when we have the sun and or a new moon, for instance, in this area, it really is starting and initiating a cycle of growth and development in these areas of the transcendental, the cosmic experience, the spiritual experience. So there are a number of ways that we can experience the 12th house that will put us in isolation, either through an illness, through detainment, or through social isolation just in some way, and also through our own intentional social isolation, right? Going into retreat or withdrawing or isolation through an ashram, really putting a lot of your energy to returning back to your original source. And so it's a very strong avatar energy in Pisces in the 12th house. So Aries, it's really about reestablishing, I think, an identity with and the identity with valor and an identity with what it means to give yourself over to the will of the collective unconscious and to return back to source. This is a lot of karmic residue being cleared away, and a giving into what is, and part of that is giving. I don't want to say giving in or giving up, but this can very easily turn into that depending on the symbol that we identify as the tool in which to enact the will of source or a higher self. It really depends on what Pisces has been doing for us in general. But for Aries, it has really been, is this the realm of propaganda and fantasy, or is this the realm of real spiritual union and compassion? Is this a realm of swimming as a mystic, right? And being very connected into those realms for healing purposes, for transcendence purposes, for connection? Or has it been more of a psychosis, right? More of a jumbled mess, very confusing, the fog of war. So these are all themes that the Aries person, it's time now to make a choice and to consciously come into alignment with some representation of how to align oneself spiritually and emotionally into something more than just oneself, right? And what you will see at the full moon, Aries, when we get there, is the full moon in Virgo is an opportunity for you to have a personal relationship and a very strong sensitivity and a very bright reflection of your what in your daily life, your healing process, your daily practices, your training and your discipline, is it able to, do you have the willpower in those practices and within yourself in order to seize power of yourself as you are releasing another part of your journey that could be very well be multidimensional in the 12th house? This is unseen realms. I mean, this could be lifetimes that are not this one, right? For the Aries person, this could be in the astral more than in the reality. This can be in the experience of the collective's energy and not just yours. And so it's really about when the moon gets to Virgo, you're going to see, oh, can I surrender? Is my routine gonna to hold this, right? Is my daily activities, my health regimen, my diet, is it actually able, and being very sensitive to that and how you feel about that. And if your feelings are powerful enough to hold you together without losing yourself, but also to go into your own darkness. Whew. Aries. Because we're gonna have an equinox during this whole lunar cycle. And the sun's going to come into your sign. The moon's going to meet Chiron in your first house. So we want you, Aries. We want Aries to align with and to truly resonate with a symbol that really represents valor, that really represents commitment to these themes if you're going to be conscious about it, and go through the process of then over the next 2 weeks really feeling into and having a intuitive connection to the areas of life about who you are, because ultimately what we're seeing here is a cleaning out in other ways of Venus and Mars and Pluto all in your 10th house, your public life, right? Something very significant has been going through a metamorphosis process and destructive and generating a lot of power here too. And now Venus and Mars are in this consummation phase where they're kind of assessing everything that's been destroyed, and will go over that territory in its emptiness and really kind of identify what we want to consciously bring forward next. What do we want to birth next in this area of the socio-political order, the institutions that we are participating in creating, and what it means to, at the same time as this new moon, having the mental capacity and the mental authority and a sense of security in a mental way to really do damage control at a social level. So this can mean anything from your neighborhood to the global sphere. This can mean anything from your social media networks to the grocery store, the people that are in your grocery store. Really, it's the people that make up the church, for instance. Or if you want to think of the 11th house as the people who make up your jury, right? Is jury of your peers. This is your peers. It is the group that you recognize as yours and that you are a part of, and it has its own energy, its own vitality. And so, like I said, this social networks, associations, loose groups of friends, right? A larger social network, the internet and your social networks in that way, your social media networks, and the global society and humanity in general. So there is, the mind is really kind of getting a reality check too about like what is actually necessary for you to really harness the full potential and full energy of those who surround you in your community opportunity in order to do damage control in some way. I think it's just like I think Aries is just coming to a reality check with this particular conjunction today at this new moon that is really instituting a process of really closing out some karmic or multidimensional cycles, or things that are happening in the astral, things that are happening at a ancestral level or a collectively karmic level that are just being expressed through the Aries person in the purest way. So this relationship to what's going on the other side, right? Because a lot of this is there's a lot of energy here, Aries, in parts of your chart that are really about your relationship to other and the whole, which is a very un-Aries type of thing, right? And so soon that is going to shift, and the concentration of planets and objects is soon going to, at least the personal planets and objects, are going to be moving into the area that has to do about you. And that's, so then the tone is going to change after the equinox, as it always does. But in the meantime, it's still important to stay at least aware of what you're experiencing and feeling, and what types of larger cycles are unfolding in which areas of your life. And it seems very, very karmic for Aries. So the thing that is making a bridge, or is bridging the collective experience down to the very fundamental, what's the world around me, is that Uranus is here, which is also making it very unstable, and has been for a long time. But this is also where the north node of the moon is, or Rahu. So this is the soul's trajectory of evolution, the direction we're being pulled right now for us to evolve collectively as a soul. Well, this is in the area of your resources, Aries. What's around you? What is yours? What are your assets and wealth and resources? And this is anything from energetic to your body to your actual financial resources, your land, your house, anything that is yours that's an asset. Anything that you have come into this life with, the money that you may have been born into or not, your genetics, right? Your ancestry, your collective habits as a society, they're also part of this as well. Just like routines, they're developed in the sixth house, but you kind of pick up on them as a young person if they're just around you. So that too, the collective habits, things that people do all the time, second house. So there's not been a lot of stability here. There has been a very strong shift in the landscape for you, Aries, in your actual resources. And this can also be your job. Anything that generates your income is also part of this second house. And so it hasn't been very stable. And in fact, this is part of your awakening, is this area right now, because this is where the North Node is. So you're being pulled in this direction anyway at a soul level. And it is the disruption, the glitching in the physical matrix, the instability in your own body, your assets and your value and anything that has worth in your life, or that is physically objective to you, that has just been glitching or shifting constantly. It is in this that you can invest this instability, or vice versa. You can invest this initiation and identification with this avatar type of energy, this compassionate, this agape, this Christ avatar type of energy at a fundamentally spiritual level, giving yourself, identifying yourself with that particular, that particular action, I would say, or that symbol of someone who is the tool of God or the higher self. This is allowing, I think, is what it's going to do for the Aries person, is allow for not necessarily stability, but an activation of kind of like a quantum leap around resources, right? A sense of, reality is not stable with Uranus here. And when we realize that, then at that point, we kind of give ourselves permission to align ourselves with something eternal, something that is more than just us in this material. And I feel like it is this disruptive glitching in the matrix that actually is initiating or activating this into something transmutational. It's very, and it's in the realm of the physical Aries, okay, which is where you are meant to be evolving right now in terms of your assets and stuff like that. So it's very challenging, and Chiron is in your first house, and so every time I feel like there's an attempt to really gain a sense of healthy ego and self-identity, there is something that is just pulling you back. And actually we're going to look at that very specifically, because what we're going to find is just in, I want to make sure I'm covering, oh yeah, here's the thing. Black Moon Lilith is in your fourth house, is in a trine to this as well. And this is the area of home and family and emotional security. And so, finding that connection to those relationships and those types of traditions or customs, or your family of origin in some respects, or just the emotional containment of your spiritual community, your inner and private life. There's something there very deeply connecting you to who you are beyond just this mortal coil, I guess. And also too is wanting survival, is self-preservation. So it's really going to draw her energy even further down into where emotional security comes from. And that's okay, because for the Aries person, this is completely stabilizing emotionally. A person who may be going through a very intense karmic event over the next couple of weeks. And so allowing oneself to just find that power and that sense of primal need to survive in those emotional bonds is actually very stable. And this is Sirius, right? This is in conjunction to the star Sirius. So the Sirian starseed and the galactic avatar aspect of this new moon is very, very powerful. And Assyrian starseeds, if you are one and you do know it, just remind yourself about, and if you're an Aries person as well, remind yourself about what the Syrian starseeds represent. They are the energy workers and the shamans and the priests and the priestesses, and they are the ones who are, sorry about that. They are the ones who are the guardians of the community, right? They talk to the animals, they talk to the plants. They tend to be not very trusting, but they have very insular groups of people. They tend to be very good musicians, very creative people. It's because they're able to tap into the true stabilization of the world around them, and the family. Nature is the family, and the world is the family. And so it's okay. Let that be for you, Aries, because even though you're going to find that it's going to be in a square to Chiron soon enough over this time period, this deep primal urge to really draw power from these relationships is going to be, I think, for the most part, is going to be very stabilizing emotionally as you make choices, as you align yourself in particular with some sort of representation of who you want to be in the process of this closing of karmic cycles, right? Giving yourself over to the transcendental experience. So, Aries, let's see what was moving forward. So this is what I wanted to show you, is the moon coming into your sign in particular, and how it's going to be in a square to Chiron. Here it is. But Chiron is going to make this connection to Uranus, okay? So Aries in particular, and Libra too, it's probably going to be important, because there will be the same connections to the angular houses 1, 4, 7, and 10. But Aries in particular, because it's right at your identity as an Aries person. The moon's going to meet Chiron, and they're going to square Lilith. And it's going to be really important to find a sense of humor, find the humor in your private life, maybe find the humor in, your family or within your family, find some sort of humor, some deconditioning humor in this area in order to find emotional stability, allow it to come through, even if it seems kind of dark or off color, because the square here, just from Cancer to this first house of Aries, is there's going to be a real strong sensitivity and urge to get your identity kind of like under control. And it's going to be really challenged by this. But again, allowing Lilith to like be a power source in terms of your emotional stability is going to be really important. So the dark humor that you can utilize for your emotional support, your self-esteem, and allowing that to be expressed without suppressing it is going to be important as your very selfhood is probably is going to be triggered, and feeling a sensitivity to needing to either like clap back in the Aries way of just getting really like into the ego, or just also letting go of any healthy attachment to your identity and just getting too deeply dark into this inner world and like being morose about it instead of like using the humor in a good way. Now it's going to be the connection to Uranus that's going to help keep that from happening, because again it's the glitching of the matrix, the matrix, the physical world, the lack of stability in your assets and your physical nature, or the shifting, the rapid changing that's happening, that's going to actually activate and allow for this not to be so deeply morose, but more like clowning, right? And to realize that it keeps our minds independent. So it will be a lot more, you can take that energy and actually apply it to something where it can actually have some good, which is to, not to say these squares don't provide opportunities for learning, but it's going to be, you can take that power and reinvest it, or that tension or that friction, and reinvest it into really being clear about what you do want, right? In the world around you, what it is that you actually do desire, right? Maybe that's something that needs to be addressed. That's an option there. So this is, I just wanted to look at, because it's going to be about March 4th, right? When this is happening, that the Aries person, I think, is really going to get very triggered in their identity. And an Aries person is going to, usually lash out or in some way try to protect themselves very instinctually when these things happen. So and with Lilith involved in an area of your self-esteem, just be prepared to have the feels about it. So we go ahead, we'll go ahead a week, because I want to look at, where are you? Here it is. Well, I want to look at the first quarter moon, because this is the real challenge for all of us with that new moon in Pisces, which is, let's go back about a day or so. We'll go back, Aries, and because it's going to be in your third house of Gemini, which is, the house that Gemini is, most easily expressed in, I would say, which is the realm of cognition and perception and your nervous system and knowledge and data, right? And so here's our first real challenge in terms of how we feel with the alignment with this symbol that we want to grow into, or that we want to realize. And for the Aries person, it's going to be, there's going to be some feels or a sense of connection. It's like in the area of the mind and the area of cognition and perception, there will be a higher sensitivity to what otherwise may not be as accessible because of the moon being here. And in fact, with Black Moon Lilith along for the ride, they're both coming together to meet in a conjunction, but they're in Gemini. It's also to a sense of expression and a sense of, expression of what's been discovered, and expression of what is, not so much what is, but it's more about working out the dialectic through the expression or the communication. That's the late Gemini, and really mastering it. So these two coming together in the third house, I feel like, Aries, that at this point remember that the quarter moons are where the crisis happens, and it's not a full picture with how we feel. So there's going to be a lot of options in front of you, Aries, that is going to be like emotionally being at a cafeteria that you can just like heap into your mind, right? Or there's so many options that you could put too much into your mind, or you may find yourself overwhelmed with the options right there in your mind, and being very in tune to it. That's the thing with the moon here in the third house. But the square is going to be to a trust at a fundamentally, spiritual level, that at the right time we'll all sit down at the table together. And so the mind's going to be very active, and certainly very, you'll be very sensitive to all the thoughts that are going to be, and in fact, it's going to be in the realm that you'll try to survive, I feel like, and that's going to be a big part of the square. So my timer went off, so let's go ahead to the actual full moon, because there are some more connections that are worth looking at. So we see that by this time, Venus and Mars have moved into Aquarius and really consummating their union about some sort of spiritual ideal. So there is hope for the future here, and for the Aries person, in terms of really growing something in terms of a social system that is built on communion and love and understanding. But it had to come at a price, right? And that's what Pluto ultimately represents. And so what is that price? Well, that's a good question. And I think that's more for the Starseeds Guide to Pluto Return of the United States, and some other stuff that I have online on Telegram that I've posted that have to do with the price of the United States, and the Pluto return, and the concepts of death and debt as well. And as you see, the South Node in Scorpio is in your 8th house. So there are aspects there that are ready to be released in terms of power dynamics that you've been involved in at a relational level. So with the full moon, we're all going to have to kind of seize power with our willpower, our own individual emotional willpower, in order to like centralize ourselves in a moment of crisis. And this is going to be about the sensitivity to this in your everyday life. Like, what are the routines and habits, or the protocol that you have in your everyday life, in your process of healing, in your routines and your habits, and how you labor, right? Your works. Are you going to be able to emotionally seize power of yourself and your everyday activities in the face of, a beam of light coming through you at a spiritual level, and being like a prism, right? And just like refracting everywhere. It's very powerful. But what it's going to require is that if you don't want to also be spread out over the course of everything that's in front of you, you emotionally are going to have to seize power of yourself and pull yourself back together. And this is part of are your routines and your habits, I think, Aries, able to support what is necessary in this moment? Are your diet and your nutrition and your exercise, or your physical activity, or what you're just doing with your resources every day, is it going to be able to, and this seems like a theme in general over the last couple of months with the full moon. So this is the full moon here, 12th and 6th house. And also, too, the Neptune being in your 12th house is also in a relationship to the nodes. Actually, if we move ahead a day, you'll really get to see that. There we go. Because the moon's already in Libra at this point, but you'll get to see here that Neptune is in a relationship to the South Node and the North Node. It's in a trine and a sextile. And so there is, this is going to be hard, I think, for Aries, but also incredibly blissful and beautiful, depending on how you see this. That if you truly accept your dharma, and what it is that your limitations are, so that you can centralize your energy towards your actual participation, your role to play. This actually is having a very favorable connection to the nodes of the moon, and in particular, to the North Node in your second house. There is going to be an activation between this and it's the energy that you gather to survive, right? Is really a Taurus thing. There's an instinctual part of Taurus that has to do with the objective world and our connection to it. As you get closer to Gemini, the consciousness is starting to come online, and there is a sense of needing to preserve oneself out of instinct and survival that is expressed in late Taurus. And there's nothing wrong with that. That is where the warrior energy really can start to come online. And with the Pleiadian nature, I find that I get a lot of Pleiadian starseeds, actually, speaking of the masculine and Aries, they have Mars. That is one of their Pleiadian markings, really suggesting that, balancing their masculine with their feminine. Anyway, this second house here, there is a will to survive and a fight that is here. And so when you accept your dharma, like really accept it, like allow the water to wash over you and almost like baptize you and cleanse you clean, it will allow for the ability to actually evolve in terms of your assets and resources, and really fight to have them grow or be invested in their growth, if that makes sense. That's going to be a big part of it. Now, if you do nothing with this awareness and in trying to the South Node, then yes, there's going to be, you're still going to get that X-ray view of what's at the bottom of the relationships in your life. But it's really going to be when you activate and act on that awareness of your Dharma that is going to lead you towards your own soul's evolution, Aries. So that's going on at the same time of the full moon. I just get a sense that there's going to be a very, it's not that it's disappointing, but it's going to be like an illness or something that is taking you away from or isolating you in some way, but also at the very same time is bringing you back to yourself and bringing you back to God or the source. And it's also a lot of karmic cycles coming to a close, astral and mystical realms, multidimensional experiences. At least Mercury is here at this point, so that's good, because then you at least have the framework neurologically to find patterns in this realm and to go deeply into the meditation, introspection, right? Getting into what your neuroses are, and being willing to go deep into your own introspection to understand yourself and your connection to everything else. So Aries, it's not going to be easy, but you are going through a process now that you get to make choices about who you are and how you want to really give yourself to the end of this karmic cycle, Aries, because it's going to have a lot to do with everything coming into your sign and coming into the spring, because then it's all time to start growing anew, and that's what we need from you as the warrior. So Aries, I'm going to leave it at that. Thank you so much for being here. I truly appreciate each and every one of you. If you're interested in a reading, interested in energy work to support your process, interested in a free online astrology summit, all of that stuff is in the description box below. You can link to my website from down there, and you can book any kind of service through my website. And if you want to have access to these forecasts in the future, you can subscribe on Subscribestar for $3 a month. And the Starseed Fellowship is every other week from these reports. It's a Zoom meetup, and we all get to hang out and talk. So about a number of these issues. So that's something that comes along for subscribers as well. So in the meantime, have a really great new moon, Aries. Be willing to keep an open mind and really lean into the idea of surrender and reestablish your relationship with whatever is mystical and spiritual to you, if you haven't already, because I think it's going to be a big part of driving your own soul's evolution. So until next time, Aries, peace out, have a good day, and take care of yourself. Bye.